By the year 1324, Mansa Musa had ruled the Mali Empire for more than a decade. His kingdom was peaceful, trade was thriving, and the royal treasury overflowed with gold. Yet, despite possessing unimaginable wealth, Musa believed that faith was greater than earthly riches. As a devoted Muslim, he decided to perform the Hajj, the sacred pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. While the Hajj was already a remarkable journey for any believer, Mansa Musa's pilgrimage would become one of the most extraordinary expeditions in human history. No ruler had ever attempted such a journey on this scale. Preparing for the pilgrimage took months because the route stretched over 6,000 kilometers, crossing vast deserts, mountains, rivers, and unfamiliar kingdoms. Every detail had to be carefully planned. Tens of thousands of people would need food, water, medical supplies, animals, soldiers, guides, and safe places to rest. This was far more than a royal procession. It was a moving city. Historical accounts describe an astonishing caravan of nearly 60,000 people, including soldiers, merchants, servants, scholars, craftsmen, musicians, cooks, and royal officials. More than 12,000 attendants wore luxurious silk garments imported from distant lands, while hundreds of camels marched alongside them. Some reports claim that around 80 camels carried nothing but pure gold, with each camel transporting between 100 and 135 kilograms. Imagine standing in the middle of the Sahara Desert and watching an endless line of people stretching beyond the horizon, golden ornaments sparkling beneath the blazing African sun, colorful banners waving in the wind, and the sound of camel bells echoing across the endless sea of sand. To those who witnessed it, the caravan must have looked almost unreal. Crossing the Sahara was an enormous challenge. The scorching daytime heat was unbearable, while the nights turned surprisingly cold. Violent sandstorms could appear without warning, and many caravans had vanished forever in the harsh desert. Yet Mansa Musa's expedition continued steadily eastward. Experienced guides led the way from one hidden well to another, water was carefully rationed, animals were protected, and soldiers constantly guarded against thieves and hostile raiders. Every day brought new hardships, but the massive caravan pressed on. As it traveled, news spread from village to village and city to city. People whispered that a great king was approaching, a king carrying mountains of gold. Long before Mansa Musa himself arrived, stories about his incredible wealth had already reached distant lands. Throughout the journey, Mansa Musa stopped in towns and villages, generously giving gold to the poor, supporting local mosques, helping travelers, rewarding scholars, and donating to charitable causes. To him, generosity was an expression of faith, but he had no idea that his kindness would soon have unexpected consequences. Eventually, the caravan arrived in Cairo, the magnificent capital of Egypt and one of the greatest cities of the medieval world. Cairo was a center of trade, learning, and political power where merchants from Europe, Asia, and Africa gathered to buy and sell spices, silk, perfumes, precious stones, and rare goods. Its people believed they had seen every kind of wealthy ruler, but everything changed when Mansa Musa entered the city. Crowds filled the streets, shopkeepers abandoned their businesses, children climbed onto rooftops for a better view, and people whispered in amazement, wondering who this mysterious king was and how one man could possess such incredible riches. The ruler of Egypt, Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad, invited Mansa Musa to his palace. According to royal tradition, visitors were expected to bow before the Sultan, but Mansa Musa respectfully refused, explaining that he bowed only to God. After a courteous discussion, the meeting continued peacefully, and the two rulers exchanged magnificent gifts. The Sultan was deeply impressed, for he had never welcomed a guest whose wealth seemed greater than that of entire kingdoms. Their meeting quickly became one of the most famous diplomatic events of the century. During his stay in Cairo, Mansa Musa continued spending and giving away enormous amounts of gold. He purchased luxurious goods, rewarded workers, donated generously to charities, supported religious leaders, gave gifts to merchants and officials, and even handed gold to complete strangers. At first, everyone celebrated as gold flowed through the city like never before. Markets became crowded, businesses flourished, and people rushed to meet the legendary emperor from Mali. But soon an unexpected problem emerged. Gold is valuable because it is rare, and when too much of it suddenly entered Cairo's economy, its value began to fall. Without realizing it, Mansa Musa had flooded the market with so much gold that prices changed dramatically. Historians believe Egypt's economy required years to recover, with some estimates, after decades of successful rule, Mansa Musa entered the final years of his life. Although historians cannot determine the exact date of his death, most believe he passed away around 1337 after ruling the Mali Empire for approximately 25 years. By that time, his empire stretched across a vast region of West Africa, controlling major trade routes, producing enormous quantities of gold, and standing as one of the most respected Islamic empires of the medieval world. To his people, Mansa Musa was far more than an emperor. He was a symbol of prosperity, justice, wisdom, and faith. Yet history has always reminded us of one unavoidable truth: even the greatest leaders cannot rule forever. After his death, the throne passed to his successors, who inherited one of the wealthiest empires on earth but lacked the extraordinary leadership, vision, and influence that had made Mansa Musa so remarkable. The empire was simply too large to govern with the same level of unity. Distant provinces became increasingly difficult to control, local rulers began seeking independence, important trade routes gradually shifted, and neighboring kingdoms grew stronger. Without Mansa Musa's guidance, the foundations of the empire slowly weakened. This decline did not happen overnight but unfolded over many decades, marking the end of Mali's golden age. As Mali's influence faded, new powers emerged across West Africa. The most significant of these was the Songhai Empire, which had once existed within Mali's sphere of influence. Over time, Songhai expanded its military strength, seized control of vital trade routes, and by the late 15th century had become the dominant power in the region. Great cities that had flourished under Mali, including the famous city of Timbuktu, eventually came under Songhai's control. The balance of power had shifted, and the mighty empire that Mansa Musa had built was no longer the strongest force in West Africa. Even as the empire declined, stories about Mansa Musa's incredible wealth continued to grow. Legends claimed that he possessed more gold than anyone could ever count, while others believed he had hidden vast treasures somewhere deep within Africa. For centuries, explorers and treasure hunters dreamed of discovering these lost riches. However, historians believe that Mansa Musa's true wealth was never stored inside secret vaults or buried beneath the earth. His greatest fortune came from controlling some of the richest gold-producing regions in the world, managing one of history's most successful trade networks, and governing a prosperous and stable empire. His real treasure was economic power, not simply piles of gold. This has led historians and economists to ask one fascinating question: was Mansa Musa truly the richest person who ever lived? Comparing his wealth to that of modern billionaires such as Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Bernard Arnault is almost impossible because medieval rulers did not own company shares or stock portfolios, and no accurate financial records exist from that period. Although some modern estimates place his fortune in the hundreds of billions of dollars, many experts argue that even these staggering figures fail to capture the true scale of his resources. Because Mansa Musa controlled vast gold mines, major trade routes, and the economy of an entire empire, his wealth may have been beyond calculation. For this reason, countless historians continue to describe him as the richest individual in recorded history. Perhaps the most surprising part of Mansa Musa's story is not his wealth, but how few people know his name today. Much of Africa's history was preserved through oral traditions rather than written documents, and over the centuries, many valuable records disappeared through wars, invasions, and the passage of time. European historians often focused on kings and empires closer to Europe, leaving many great African rulers largely forgotten. Yet Mansa Musa's achievements never truly disappeared. Ancient manuscripts, historic maps, the writings of Islamic scholars, and archaeological discoveries have continued to preserve his remarkable legacy. Today, historians are once again bringing his story into the global spotlight. When most people hear the name Mansa Musa, they immediately think of unimaginable amounts of gold. But gold was only one part of his legacy. He invested in education, encouraged scholarship, built magnificent mosques that still stand today, transformed Timbuktu into one of the greatest centers of learning in the medieval world, and connected Africa more closely with distant civilizations through diplomacy and trade. His greatest achievement was not becoming extraordinarily rich. It was proving that wealth could be used to build knowledge, strengthen society, and create a lasting civilization. More than 700 years have passed since Mansa Musa crossed the Sahara Desert with his legendary caravan. Since then, mighty empires have risen and fallen.
If you enjoyed this journey into history, don't forget to like the channel and join us for more incredible stories from the past.